Today, we're going to be focusing on looking at the integration between Nuxt and Airtable. So let's go ahead and kick off and let's talk about what those things are, right? As a quick overview, because we make no assumptions here on this show. And so as a quick review, Nuxt.js is basically a meta framework that sits on top of Vue that allows it to extend a lot of common functionality. So basically, if you're coming from the React world, this is equivalent to basically like Next.js. And so it extends a lot of great developer experience things and makes our lives a lot easier while still allowing us to utilize the framework we know and love, which is Vue.js. Now, I'm sure a lot of you already know that. So let's go on to the next piece, which some of you may not be as familiar with. It logged me in. All right, let me log out. All right, so what is Airtable and what is this thing everyone keeps talking about? Because if you've been around sort of explored automated integrations as well as like CMSs and that kind of stuff, Airtable is very likely to have come up in your exploration of things. And it's like, of course, right? The moment I want to show it, it's like kind of taking its time to like log me out. There we go. All right. So Airtable. When we think of managing data, a lot of times, most of us think about managing content from like a news perspective. So think like WordPress, we're doing content and we're writing long blog posts. But oftentimes when we want to do other more sort of, I wouldn't say more interesting, but different scenarios that we want to solve, we want to be able to manage content in structured manners. But at the same time, a lot of us here, or that's an assumption, but I would say a lot of us in the web dev community often don't start from like a database background, right? Most of us came in from like sort of the UI perspective, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. And so when it comes to creating like, queuing up a database and creating structured, tables and figuring out relationships, like that kind of stuff has a bit of a learning curve, right? Especially to do and scale correctly. So enter Airtable, which is something that has been on my docket for quite some time because for a lot of us who are basically working in tech, Notion is one of those things that's probably come up in your radar. And Notion has this idea of inline tables, which has been really great for like basically making sure that you're able to, let me see if I can bring up an example actually right here. So let me see, Notion, let me bring up, all right, so let me create a new document and bring that over here. And then can I hide this? Perfect. All right. Let me bump this up a bit. So inside of Notion, they have this idea of inline tables, but what they really are databases. So let's call it for the Twitch stream for session 13. And let's go ahead and insert a table. Right? Inside this table, we can actually define, like, for example, the table name. So in this case, let's call something like the schedule. And so what's great about this is that you could go like, okay, well, for example, for me, I have like, build with Ben, session 13. And so this is nice because I get to like enter things in a familiar kind of UI UX of having the Excel-like experience. But what's great then is that I can add structured pieces to this content. So that let's say I want to tag it with things, that's fine. This is a multi-select, so I could be like this, we're talking about Nuxt, we're talking about Vue, and we're also talking about Airtable, for example. And then, here, let's say this build with Ben instead, we're also going to do Vue, but this time we're going to focus more on like, call it like Vite instead, right? And the thing is that when we work with data, one of the things we want to do is that we often want to extend the functionality, but we want to be able to extend data structures and schemas in a kind of intuitive way. We don't want to have to think too hard about it. So again, a common property that we might have for our dates and events is an actual date property, right? So it might be like, recorded on, like what date was this recorded on? So this will be scheduled for example, this is today, and I can include a time, for example. And this is very intuitive, right? 12 p.m. Great. This one is going to be, on the 31st. And so I'm going to include the time. This will also be at 12 p.m. And so this is great because one of the things that this kind of leverages for us is now that we have this sort of nice UI with things being laid out, we can do things like filter by things. So we can say, let's go and filter out all the things where, the tags only contain, in, Nuxt, for example. And you'll see that, boom, our data has technically updated. And so I think Notion really helped to popularize this concept of making, call it, databases like this accessible to people, in that they create all these, it allows you to extend properties on them, and then you can do with it what you will. Part of the problem, though, with this Notion approach is that, at least, let me double check right now. So, okay, right now there is an ability to export it as a, looks like PDF, HTML, and Markdown. But part of the problem with this is that most of us aren't like this. That's not a common data format that you would call it ingest inside of, say, a web app, or if you're statically generating a site. Because the problem for me right now, so to contextualize it a bit, is, as you know, I see that, you know, Thesis is here, so he, you know, one of the core inspirations for me getting this up is that my schedule page is already out of date, which is terrible. It needs to be up to date. But on the other hand, it's been tricky for me to keep up to date because, believe it or not, let's just open this up because I'm going to show you this. Let me open up the Ben Code Zen folder. And if we take a look at my schedule page, you'll see that, believe it or not, it's all hard-coded right now, which I know is such a travesty as a programmer. But at the time, it was like sort of my lowest barrier of entry to getting something up and running. But, you know, this leaves a lot to be, like, left to be desired, because after all, like, what about, like, the topic? What do we want to include links to? Like, let's make this programmatic. And so I've looked into various sort of headless CMSs to try to help me with this. And Airtable came across my way, and actually the other one that actually a really close contender was Sanity, but I'm going to show you why I ended up going with Airtable basically in this episode, and we're going to try Thesis. Yep, it was not great, not great. But I knew that part of the reason I went with the Markdown approach going forward was because, again, I wanted to get something up, but more importantly, I knew that getting the automation was going to take me, as you can see, the last time I updated this was in July, so it's clearly taken me like basically a month to get around to like actually getting the automation piece. And that's what we're here. You expected at least a JSON file. I thought about that honestly at first, Thesis, but then I found myself getting into a rabbit hole of like, well, what properties do I want on this? And so I was like, just get it out, publish it, move on. So this is my minimum viable product. That said, what is Airtable? So let's go ahead and sign in. I'm going to go ahead and, I guess, just in case anything pops up, I'm going to go ahead and sign in over here real quick. Do everything with one password, so it shouldn't be too bad, but let's go ahead and upload this. Okay, we're here in our Airtable. So I'm going to open up Airtable, and so what you see in here actually should look quite familiar to what we saw actually with the with Notion, in that we see here an Excel spreadsheet that allows us to define different properties on our various cells. But then what's really nice about each row is that we have the ability then to look at it from a database, like sort of like as an item, right? The problem with Excel to me is that you're stuck with that specific view of a graph, or not graph, like the basically the spreadsheet view. And I like the fact that this feels a little bit more like a form that I'm filling out, and I can define this stuff, like I can custom define those things. Okay, I see some stuff in the chat. Hello, Dragon Does. How's it going? Andrew, this man ships. I tell you, that's one of the most challenging things for me I've learned about, like, especially when doing side projects and things for myself that aren't necessarily related to the 9-to-5 job, is that oftentimes I get in such like a, oh, this is the perfect solution. This is how it should be. And then it just never happens. So I'm trying to get myself at like the point where I'm just shipping consistently rather than sort of large spurts of effort and then things get held back. Anyways, so that's why we're here today. We're here to talk about Nuxt and Airtable. All right. So, and actually, since we're on a quick tangent, I want to, what's up? I'm going to say you mads us. You mads us? Anyways. So, as far as the basic review for the AirPods Max, honestly, I love them. They are the perfect headphones for me. But I will say this comes with a huge caveat. So I had a very specific problem when solving for basically wireless earphones. Because one, these are expensive. I think they're $5.99 out the gate. So they're very expensive when it comes to headphones. And arguably, I think when most people review them, if you watch YouTube and that kind of stuff, they'll tell you that like, well, if you get, whether it's the Sony MDX 1000s, that's like, I think the most popular one on Wirecutter, those are much cheaper. They're like $100, maybe $150 price point, and you get like basically either similar, some audiophiles will say better sound quality. And why would you pay this much for the Apple AirPods Max? So to be totally fair, I own the Sony and like the MD 1000X. I own Bose headphones. I've tried a lot of different ones, like sort of the lower tier, not even lower tier, the less expensive versions of this, because I'm on the computer a lot. I work a lot, and so also with basically being in a space where it's not really convenient to play music out in the open. It's like basically really key for me getting work done. That said, one of the problems I have is I have a lot of different devices in terms of like I switch often between my phone, my tablets. I have multiple tablets. I have multiple laptops. And a lot of them are in the Apple ecosystem. So what I found was with most Bluetooth headphones, they're very good at managing, call it maybe between 2 to 3 devices, or let's say 1 to 3. That obviously does 1 really well. 1 to 3 with moderate accuracy. But the problem is that, especially with all the recording gear that I have and a lot of the various things plug in, I started noticing that when I wanted to switch from like the main laptop to the phone or the tablet, and I needed to do this in a relatively seamless way, it was not even difficult. The experience was terrible because the Bluetooth signal would get lost inside of a specific device, and I'd have to basically like go in, reset the Bluetooth connection, go over here, like reset it, and sometimes it would take a while and so I'd lose sound basically randomly, and I just don't have time for that. And I dealt with it enough that by the time the Apple Max, like these came out, I sort of approached them with a bit of skepticism because of the price tag. But then eventually, basically, I had a friend, actually Debbie O'Brien, if you haven't, she's a Nuxt ambassador and just an actual wonderful person. But she really loved her experience with hers and found that it was very good at switching between things. And from my experience with AirPods Pros, they were pretty good at actually going between devices. So I was like, okay, let me just give this a shot. And sure enough, it's done really the job for me as far as like keeping those, like switching between devices is so good. Like right now, if I like it's connected to the laptop, but if I bring up my phone and play music, it'll just automatically switch. Very, very seamless. And like other things, like you can plug it in and it'll charge while you're using it. Little things like that to me make the US experience quite nice because I have enough to handle. Like the fact that in this, as we talk about today, I'm clearly behind on things like getting this data automation stuff up for my site and other things that have much more value. I really don't want to spend time hassling with my headphones. So for me, the AirPods Max are very well worth it. And the other thing too, actually, is that, and then this is small, but like, look, the pads they're magnetic, so they come out and you can just switch them out. And you might be thinking like, well, how often do you switch headphone pads? But from my experience owning multiple pairs of headphone over the years, they do deteriorate, especially one, I use them a lot, but two, I call it like after a year or two of usage, I start to notice they have problems. And so recently, or prior to buying these, I was trying to switch out the pads on like a HyperCloud gaming headset. And what happened was I bought it. It was like $12, right? So you're like, that's whatever, that's cheap. But I think it took me like 30 minutes to like get the thing onto it because it was so like it had to be like a perfect fit. Anyhow, one less thing that I don't have to worry about. So I really love the fact that those pads are just as easy as pulling it in and out. I can move on with my day. So hopefully that was a little bit of a long-winded response, but I would say if you're interested in the AirPods Max, and again, you're kind of in the Apple ecosystem, I would say, I see a comment here from Andrew, smell your headphone pads and you'll know why switching the pads out easily is great. Yeah, I don't think I've smelled mine yet, but a fair point, right? Sometimes things get warm, things get sweaty. Exactly. So the fact that it becomes easier for me to switch them out, I think will encourage me to do it more. So I'm excited about that. But if you're even interested, again, I know that the price tag is quite high, but call it like if it's a business expense, because again, a lot of us are using this for work, I would say, honestly, primarily in that we're listening to music while we're coding or we're writing stuff. So I'm pretty sure you can write part of it off. But anyhow, Apple has a pretty generous return policy. I think it's 30 days. So if you're really thinking about it and, it's safe to go in and try them, at the store, I say go and see how they feel in your head because, a lot of these things are kind of personalized to each person. But then I would say if you're like, just bring it home, give it a try. And then obviously if it doesn't work, return them. But that's what I would say as far as that goes. All right. Perfect. You're welcome. Okay. So here I've started looking into how to manage the vast workflow that I have to deal with in terms of like managing events, managing live streams, and how do I keep everything connected. And so to outline kind of my problem to you, I think would be helpful is let's write this down here in Obsidian, which was the problem, right? Is that the workflow had to accommodate something like this, where right now, let's say I schedule a live stream, right? So the workflow is something like schedule a live stream for X day. And so when you do schedule a live stream for X day, there's a couple things that I realized needed to happen. One, you need to update the Google Calendar event because some people will want to use Google Calendar to track whether or not they're going to have time to come, and they use it as a reminder to like, this is the event that I need to attend. And so this means that when I update the calendar event, I needed to like update the title, the start and end date, and I needed to update like the description and like location, for example. And then on top of that, if I want to schedule a live stream for a certain day, actually, update the website. So then, with these two workflows alone, it was a bit like, okay, I guess I could make Google Calendar the source of truth. And then what I can do is I can maybe pull from the Google Calendar API into my website to like generate the stuff. But that's kind of, that has its place, but then I had to build that integration and figure out how all that works. And then how do I start doing more advanced features? Because events, all of a sudden, right, live streams is just one piece. How do I then schedule other things that might be like workshops? Or what if I want to add things like when I'm appearing on a live stream for a podcast and all this metadata, all of a sudden the Google Calendar event does not become adequate, especially because some events you want to publish to the Google Calendar. Some of them you might not want to be on the public one that people subscribe to, but maybe that's just on for the personal one. And so very quickly, this is how I got a bit overwhelmed because it was like, oh gosh, this is rough. And so we can see here with the Airtable, I'm started to explore how can I go ahead and mark not only progress, but like just various attributes. Like I like the fact that it can scale. But here's the other thing about the Airtable that's a kicker, is that it has integrations into other pieces of your workflow. So even though I'm using this to manage like the Excel spreadsheet, you'll see that, for example, when like I basically have when records match certain events, it will go ahead and create that on my calendar, and I can specify which calendar. It'll update it, for example. So for instance, this morning I went ahead and I went in here and I added like Nuxt and Airtable exploration to the description, and I realized that's actually a misspelling, so I can change that. And the thing is that when I update this, again, theoretically, I think one of my automations is broken right now, but this will actually update the calendar then like that it's connected to, because one of the things it has here, which is really great, is you'll see that in this here, I have a Google Calendar event ID that's basically attached to the database record. And so especially coming from a programmer's background, like this is the what do you call it? This is like the holy grail from like I can automate things because it like Airtable is designed to hook into data properties and like have you trigger basically certain hooks based on how your data is updated. But then I get to do things like, let's say I want to go ahead and take this view, right, of public events, and I really want to kind of view it as a Kanban. Well, this is some of the things that like, for example, this is a form actually. This is not what I wanted. So, okay, for example, but by the way, I haven't even done this yet, but this is a form that you can send to people and it will enter the data into Airtable, and then you can kick off automations from there, which is very cool. And one of the things I'm gonna probably even do for like Obsidian topics and that kind of stuff. So for example, Kanban, right? So let's say Kanban, I wanna like go ahead and say, all right, so I wanna only show stuff that's where not status actually, I want the visibility. So basically focus on public events, and don't worry, the private events I don't really care. Like it's just more for the public stuff that shows on the public calendar. Okay, this is live stream, but I'm not really crazy about it doing it based on the type though. So I'm going to stack them based on the status. And check this out. All of a sudden I have a workflow now for like being like, okay, like currently, well, to be honest, this Obsidian After Hours 12 is long gone. Build with Ben here is, I called it done, but I actually trying to get those things published, so they should go in the queue. And then so it's things like this, right, where build with Ben is actually in progress. And so what's great about this is I have that UI leveraging, and then inside of my public events, you'll see that build with Ben 13 is now been moved to in progress, and the respective UI has been updated, which is incredibly convenient because then once again, you can trigger workflows based on this. So the question is, how do we get this integration into, so the purpose we're here today is to take the Airtable stuff where we manage all the stuff here, and it becomes our single source of truth for a lot of this metadata property, and how do we extend that into Nuxt? And that's what we're here to explore. So with that, let's just Google Nuxt Airtable. So that said, looks like there's a couple of, okay, this is actually what I want. I want an Airtable NP API. Okay. Install Airtable. Is your own RESTful API. Okay. So let's go ahead and see what we can do. Base ID. Putting your API key, share only one base with it. Okay, Airtable. I mean, this is the official one, right? This is the official JavaScript library published 3 months ago. So so actually, I'm actually fairly up to date on this stuff. Okay, so you can configure Airtable. All right, let's see. Let's take a look at a case study for Airtable. So it looks like this person did it in 2019. Okay, so that was a little while ago. So with Nuxt, created a framework. That's fine. Structure, I'm fine with that. I just need to look at the database. Oh yeah, I'm excited to show you the Airtable stuff. That's the doc stuff. This is actually pretty cool. Checking the chat real quick. Actually, I have the chat below here. Let me go ahead and see here. All right. I see here. Let's see. Smell your up, and then Ben's Tech Gadget Review YouTube channel coming soon from Nunchi. I am not gonna lie. That is something like that has been so much on my list. Like I have these, like over here, I have these 3 keyboards. These aren't even the ones I'm using. I would love to do like all the mechanical keyboards I purchased. Like I have a lot of devices because I have the intent of like sharing basically my experience with those things so people can figure out like what makes the most sense for them. Because one of my challenges with a lot of tech YouTube like gadget reviews is they're not always, sometimes I don't feel like they do a good job telling you like in what context things are better off for certain things. So anyways, but this is also one of the reasons why that idea of a tech YouTube channel, or actually part of my YouTube channel was to have tech gadget reviews. I just haven't gotten to it yet because one, video production is very, very expensive, very hard to do. From like especially a time and energy perspective, because you want to do it creatively, because I think the standards for YouTube have gotten just incredibly high, and especially because people like Marcus who do such an amazing job with reviews that like for me entering in there's a lot, and it feels like a lot of pressure to get it right to a certain extent. But that said, so that's why I think on a previous stream, one of the things I talked about was this idea that I would just write the content first. So I would have pics, I'd have the explaining context. So similar to how I just wrote markup, I'm gonna get my gadget stuff up onto the website so that it's at least static and like there's text for people to read and access. And then when I like get a better workflow for publishing and creating content, honestly, I have full intention to go back and like create video content to show like, here are the different keyboards, here's my layout I like, etc., etc. So, oh, Jacob here with the Airtable hasn't changed that much over the years. I made the Gatsby plugin. Oh, very cool. Okay, that's exciting. Then in that case, I'm surprised there's not a Nuxt Airtable integration then. I half expected there to be like a plugin for Nuxt plug. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. There's part of me that's thinking if it doesn't exist, that should be an idea, honestly, for me to do. Okay, so let's check this out real quick. Script Airtable, new Airtable key. I mean, yeah, so they're doing this at the page level. It kind of would be better if they were doing it at the app level. It doesn't seems kind of otherwise like you'd have to create a component just to fetch Airtable stuff. All right, so okay. What we're gonna do? We're gonna write down the ideas. So Airtable Nuxt plugin, that needs to be like a thing because Airtable I think has so much potential. Okay, so that said, let me double check this one right here actually. So Conference HQ working with it, front end. Okay, this one's using GridSum. Oh, okay, never mind. There's no code. This is just like a case study of what Bjorn did. All right. Well, in that case, let's just get started then. We're gonna just do the minimum viable product. See, that's what I'm saying. I'm getting caught up in the perfect solution. Clearly, I need to just make it happen. All right. So what we need to do is we need to find the docs for Airtable. So I think API documentation. Yes. Okay. But check this out. We are currently inside the API integration docs, but more importantly, what's amazing about this is, I guess, all right. It's fine. The ID is public. I don't think that's going to be a big deal. I think it'll be the key that will be the big thing. So if it really becomes an issue, I'll delete it and reset it. Okay. So what's really cool about this is that the the docs reflect your workspace. So here, if I go into metadata, okay, good. Yeah, API key. Key is the only private thing. Okay, thank you, Jacob. I like panicked for a second. I was like, oops, was I supposed to show that? Okay, cool. So we'll deal with the API keys in a little bit. But check this out, though. My events table, it actually gives me like the whole... Actually, let me zoom out a little bit so that it doesn't do that weird clipping. Like, check this out. This is cool. Like, I can see the various workflows. I can see the examples, which I've already set to ISO. Like, this is very, this is good. Okay, so the question here is, how are we going to grab that stuff out? So let's see, there is a node required base. Airtable base. Okay, all right, I actually know how I want to do this. All right, so what we're gonna do first is all right, let's get the development environment up and running. So okay, let's close content, let's close components, close everything, static, styles. All right, we have a netlify.toml, yes we do, but we don't have the functions stuff defined. All right. So what I'm thinking is, since I don't have the opportunity to, like, right now there's no clear Nuxt plugin integration, which is totally fine, then I'm going to use serverless functions in order to create my own endpoints, right? So that way it has just a little bit more control while still having that separation of like front end to back end, which I'm very stoked for. So what we're going to do here is let's take a look at the functions. And we're going to want to configure and deploy them. So configuring them, let's define this directory. So here, the functions, we're going to put this under, let's see, I'm going to put it under netlif. Yeah, I'm going to do it specifically under netlify/functions. So that's very clear that this is scoped to netlify functions. And what we're going to do here now is we're going to create a new folder for netlify and a new folder for functions. And then I will just do a hello world.js real quick. And then I believe exports.handler is an async function. And then we'll return a status code of 200 with a body of hello there. Okay, and to show that this works now, we're going to run ntl dev. Well, I can't type. ntl dev. Did that go? All right, that is running. Failed to achieve add-ons. Oh, yes. Okay, ntl link. Let's see. What user am I on? Already linked. Okay. What is wrong then? ntl dev. Refuse to add-ons for the site. Unauthorized. Hold on. NTL switch. Which user am I on? I'm now on bencodezen.io. Great. So now, let me run yarn real quick. That's good. NTL dev. Should work. There we go. Okay, so I was just on the wrong account. So in case, well, basically, sorry, I went through that a little quick. In case you have multiple Netlify accounts that you need to manage, you can actually do that all within the Netlify CLI, which a huge shout out to Charlie Gerard for showing me how that works, because that's awesome. Let's see, you don't want your key to be on the client side either. Wish they had a better key management. Well, Jacob, in that case, it all the more reason then for the serverless function approach that I'm about to do. Okay. All right, we have this set up. And so to show that this works, if we go to, oh, I realized though, not quite. Let's see, we're going to go ahead and inside of Netlify, we're going to do another redirect, because what I want is to redirect all of the API queries. So anything from API slash, like wild symbol, will go to .netlify functions splat, and then this will be a 200, I believe. So for this to work, actually, let me verify this is correct real quick. Where's my Pokedex demo? I want the Nuxt Pokedex demo. Nuxt Pokedex demo. Yes, give me this one. Here inside my Netlify TOML. Oh, I should add, you know what? I should just add this actually to build API splat 200. Yep, I did that right. Perfect. So let me go ahead and come up here now, reset this. This is my build, Nuxt generate, Netlify functions, publish dist. I have my API. I'm going to save. And so everything's updating. So you see that I updated the rules from netlify.toml. So let's go ahead and bump this over 2/3. Let's bump this over 1/3. And now, if everything's working correctly, I should be able to go API slash hello world. And you can see that our response is here. So this shows us that basically our API is up and running and that we can do some fun stuff to do. So what are we doing? Okay, now that we have our serverless function set up, what I want to do is set up an Airtable integration where I'm fetching the events. So the way I like to think about this particular design when I'm thinking of using serverless functions as a way to, and actually as a quick recap, for those who haven't used serverless functions before, honestly, the way I think about them is as a front-end developer, imagine that you have the ability to design your own APIs while using like syntax that you're familiar with. In other words, it's basically JavaScript with a little bit of slight change because it's in Node. So you don't get some of the export import syntax is slightly different, but otherwise it feels like you're just writing another module. So I'll show you what I mean in a second. So here, Netlify functions, great. So let's see. Okay, so the page we're trying to update here is we're trying to update the schedule page. So here, where do I do it? Where's my, oh, here's my schedule page. Schedule.view, perfect. Okay. Inside of schedule.view, we have nothing going on right here, but what we can do is, let's say that when the page is created inside of our created lifecycle hook, first of all, let's just make sure this works. And we're just going to log hello. And this way, when we go now to /schedule, we should see inside of our console log, whoops, that's not what I wanted. Inside of our console log, we have hello. There it is. It worked. But what we want to do, and I like to think of this like, how would I prefer to do this as a developer? Well, ideally, I would fetch from something like /API/events, and then I would go ahead and return basically return public events. And this is actually all I want to do. So because we have serverless functions, I can design the API I want without worrying about basically how it's going to be returned. And so this is going to be, we're going to see how this works. So I'm going to rename hello world now to events.js, because we think of all our serverless functions in this case as basically the APIs that we're going to hit. So if I open up events.js here, we'll see now that if I do something like, let's return let's see, JSON.stringify, and inside of here, I'm going to say, actually, I'm just going to stringify an array, and then we're just going to go 1, 2, 3. That's all I want to do. So if I save this, what we can do here to prove that this works is we can go, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and say this is going to be, we need the async here because we're going to about to fetch something. So const events data equals await, we're going to fetch /API/events, and then we're going to take the response and we're going to JSONify it. I think it's, I always mess this part up. I think it's like this. And then I'm just going to log out events data. So if I save here and refresh, we see that we actually get an array back of 1, 2, 3, which is awesome. So to show that this works, we're going to go ahead and do a data property. And in this data property, we'll have events. I'm just going to call it as simple as that. And I'll say this.events equals events data. So if I save this, and now let's go ahead and actually under schedule, let's list this out. So UI li v4. Actually, you know what? I forgot. I have a policy. I don't do plurals anymore. If it's a list of items, let's call it event list, not events. And the reason for this is because when you're looping, or for me at least, when I loop through something like a v4, event in events, it is clean, but it's just one letter difference, and it's so easy to mess that kind of stuff up to me. So I'm just going to call it like events list, and then I'll bind the key. Again, the key is very simple right now, so I'm just going to bind it to event. And then we can spit out event and save. And so if everything works as expected, we should see that async created, refresh. I don't see anything. Test. Oh, nothing is appearing. Dun, dun, dun. Failed to load. Server responded with the status. Oh. Did I mess something up? Let's see. Compiled successfully. Return. Only absolute URLs are supported. In what? Schedule Nuxt. Node fetch. This shouldn't. We are in the browser right now. I actually like tried to intentionally not fetch from. I actually tried not to fetch from the basically the async not found /events. Not great. I had the data. Why did it not? Why does it suddenly not like it? Like we had fetched it successfully. I'm a little surprised. Events data. So yeah, here it is. 1, 2, 3. I don't understand. So if it's mounted, then we should be able to. Oh, I'm silly. I did not. I did change the variable on one and didn't update the other. That would do it. Ha. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Nunchi, I see your question about productivity. I'm going to get to that, I think, I'm going to do kind of a little bit more with this, and then I'll get to your question. So hang in there. I promise I will answer that. Okay, so now that we have the event list, everything's showing up, we can see now that here we are able to return stuff. And now I think this is where we're going to jump in and do our integration here. So let's see. Let me take a look at this. All right, so we had a couple of things here. We need to be able to require an API key. We need to do a base. Okay, this is, okay, easy peasy. So the first thing we're going to want to do is, let's go ahead and stop the server real quick. And we're going to add Airtable, I believe is this Airtable by itself. So yarn add Airtable. We'll add that into our package because this is going to be a dependency that we're going to want to use inside of our server. Especially on the node side. So that's being set up. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, perfect. And then let me start up NTL dev again. So basically stands for netlify dev, and it helps to spin up not only my Nuxt environment, which you normally run with yarn dev, but then it also starts up the serverless side. So I get like it's like a double backend, which is actually quite nice. Okay, so that's done. So what I can do now here is I can go const Airtable equals require Airtable, because that's what we're going to do. And Airtable is telling me to actually just set the base immediately. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do, let's see, workspace ID. And I'm going to make this thing just a constant that's separate from it. And then the base with the workspace ID. Okay, so we have this, we have the workspace ID, we have Airtable, great. And then inside of here, we've required it const base. Oh, interesting. Const base equals require, but then Airtable equals require Airtable, Airtable.configure. Oh, this is, oh, okay, got it. This is different ways of doing it. I see. Okay, so this means to me then that I was right. Const Airtable equals require Airtable. Okay, never mind. Take this out. I don't need this. I don't actually need that either. And what we're going to do here is we're going to say, let's see, Airtable dot configure. And I think I am going to take their convention to make this capital. No, actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to take JavaScript conventions. Configure. So what are we going to configure? The endpoint URL. Oh, I totally botched that spelling. And then we have this here. Okay. And then, all right. So here's the part that Jacob was saying that needs to be private. So we'll show you how it generates, but then I'm basically going to delete it. So that, and then how I'll manage it. Actually, that's actually also pretty important. So this is kind of what I think is interesting though. Then Airtable.base. So once you've configured the Airtable, then you would then continue to configure the base to be this. It's kind of interesting. You don't configure the base as part of the initial configuration, but that's okay. We can figure that piece out. So of course, with this isn't going to do very much for us, because what we need to do now is, now that we have this, the question is, how do I hit it? Curl. Okay, so you get the ability to go api.airtable v0 with this /events. The keys for the whole account. Okay, so that's a very big deal. So I have to be very careful about showing that. But now that you configured Airtable, I would think there would be like an Airtable.fetch, right? Like I went through all this effort. Graphical. Yep, that's fine. Rate limits. I'm not worried about the rate limits. Authentication. That's fine. Why don't they have an example for the... I have expected there to be examples for this. You export this, configure it. Does it mean that I can go like base.fetch? Pass it in the client libraries. All must be authenticated. That's fine. Okay, in the meantime, let's go ahead and check out the API key bit. So, all right. So I'm going to do then is scroll down a bit to list records. Oh, okay, list records. Ah, here we go. Thank you, Jacob. I clearly didn't scroll far enough. Base events, that's like, oh, this is exactly what I want. This is great. Okay, this is perfect. It's almost like, and you can see, oh, they got a whole API for this. This is great. All right, so to show you how I'm going to manage it, I guess from like a, because, okay, clearly, like as we can see in the chat with Jacob, one of the problems with doing everything client side, especially that's what we're used to as front-end developers, is that means that things like API keys need to be managed inside of usually like a .m file, but .m files cannot be committed publicly because otherwise it basically defeats the purpose of something being private. And so how do you deal with this? And so usually I've been on teams where you just pass around a file and hope that no one accidentally deletes it and it's gone from history forever. Instead, what would be better is if we could actually just manage it in kind of a team way. And Netlify actually makes this really easy for us. So if I go ahead and take a look at, this is the view area, so here. So for the Ben Code Zen site, one of the things I can do so that in case other people, I'm working on it with other people, is that with the build and deploy, I can do inside of my environment here, I can actually set things that can be pulled in later on. So to show you this works, I'm going to set something, I'm going to say Airtable API key. And for now, I'm just going to say blue swords smash, right? And I'm going to save this. And so here I've defined the basically an environment variable over here. And to show you that this works, I'm going to go ahead and restart the NTL dev. And what we'll see here, or we should see here, because I haven't seen it yet, is that you'll notice that the build setting automatically injects that Airtable API key that was set. And what's nice about this is that when you move machines, it'll just pull it and automatically generate that for you. So to show that this works, for example, I can go ahead and say inside of here, rather than stringify an array, I can say array's fine, but then I'll go process.env what did I call it? Airtable API. Oh my gosh, what happened? Oh yeah, it opened up a window. API key. So if I save this now, reloaded function events, reloaded, fetched. You'll see, check this out. Our blue sword smash is now available to us. And of course, like I'm rendering out to the screen, so this makes it not private. But what's great is that because it's injected into our workspace, especially if we're doing it behind things like serverless functions, this is hidden on the back end of piece. So people aren't gonna actually be able to inspect the kind of element. Whereas if we were to do this on the front end with that kind of like pulling things, you'd have a problem. So basically what's gonna happen here is I'm gonna replace this with process.m.airtable API key. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off to my other monitor and grab the API key. In the meantime, you know what? Oh, you know what I'm going to do just to make sure, since that way I don't have to like look here while, so I'll work on, let me get the API page up real quick. But I want to go ahead and answer Nunchi's question here. So the question here is, Nunchi is curious about how I manage productivity in a general sense. So whether I use Pomodoro, I plan things in advance, general workflow. I will start by saying this is probably something I need to devote an entire stream to, probably on like an Obsidian office hour session. But don't worry, I would like to kind of explain at a high level kind of what I do. So for me, in case you didn't know, Obsidian is a big part of my workflow right now, as far as having sort of graphical views of the way I think and the way I aggregate things. And so one of the things I've been trying to really experiment with recently is, sorry, I'm just getting the API key. I think this is good. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and switch this. Okay. So when it comes to workflow, I would say I'm a big fan of sort of the essentialist approach. So have you ever heard of Greg McKeown? I think I keep forgetting how to pronounce his last name. He wrote the book called The Essentialist, I believe. And I'm going to just double check that real quick. It is The Essentialist. Yeah, The Essentialist. And I think one of the hardest things about most productivity systems is that it tries to always encourage you to do more. And when a lot of times busy work is not the same as doing something that's impactful. So I tried to set like the most high priority thing for myself for the day. As far as like, if I only got one thing done, what would that be? But if that's kind of a bit too overarching for you, what I found is that I set at least one long session. Like, so the problem I have with Pomodoro is because I've basically tried a lot. I wouldn't say all of them. I've tried a lot of productivity systems. Anything that's noteworthy come across my radar, I've probably tried it at this point. Is that Pomodoros for me don't allow for some of that long form thinking that unfortunately, like I think not unfortunately, but a lot of our work as developers and especially if you're a content creator too, typically we need a little bit more than call it 20 minutes to get something done. That's kind of good for like something that's more short form and you don't need continuous thought. But what I found was when I kept breaking up certain tasks into like chunks of 25 minutes, I kept losing context in between when like a longer sprint would have actually been helpful. And even I found 45 minutes, which I think they recommend as like the longer one, or I think 50 minutes is the max for Pomodoro. That I found to be, again, a bit short from like a full, from not feeling like I'm like on a time crunch. Cause I'll tell you, when you're recording video, it's like the last thing you want to do is be like, oh my God, I have 10 minutes left. And you're like sweating and stuff like that. So for me, I really try to keep my focus sessions, at least one focus session in the morning, which ranges anywhere from 60 minutes is my minimum to 90 minutes. So one in the morning, one in the afternoon is basically my key for doing sort of longer, more impactful work. And then beyond that, then it's a matter of like trying to chunk things out accordingly. That said, when it comes to productivity, I'm actually working on a system right now to sort of better reflect the ideas that I'm noticing within Obsidian and note-taking. And I want to take that over to productivity, in that right now I think productivity and getting things done are typically very linear in what you want to do. So you're like step A, B, C, D, E. But I would argue a lot of times the work that we do is not as clean cut and easily defined as like, in order to do these things, I need to take steps 1 through 5. Oftentimes it's like take step 1 through 2, let it sit for a bit, then come back to 3. And having all those things interplay is actually rather complicated, I found. Especially because most of us, I mean, we're human beings. We're not input-output machines. We're not computers. So productivity systems, in my opinion, need to appreciate the complexity of that. But a lot of times it's left to our own devices as individuals to cobble together our own productivity system, which isn't a bad thing, because when you personalize it, you make it more, it helps to make things stickier. But the problem I found with that is that you basically find yourself spending so much time basically being a project manager because you have all these tools you need to manage. And that's why I think tools like Airtable and, as I'm working on my own solution for this, is that it needs to be easy, because we want to spend our time doing the things we care about and spending time on the things that we love, rather than trying to manage all the things and figure out, how do I get the data out of this when, I would say similar to the Vue ethos is that I would argue productivity in terms of like the data, the metrics, and the things you care about. I would say while we all have our own personal slants on like what we care about, we probably have a good 80% of overlap that like can be taken care of automatically. But a lot of times you need to do those things and like cobble those things together. And so to show you how seriously I dived into it, like at one point I actually bought an Atlassian license and had like a whole Jira Confluence. Like I had epics for things in my life and then tickets, and I was trying to do the time estimate. And golly, did I burn out on that quick, because while I had the primitives to make like my ideal possible, like how much time I'm spending on things and how do I reflect on the estimates to get better at things, like I was so tired from the project management. Oh yes, sorry. So let me drop that. The Essentialists. I'm going to drop that in for you. The Disciplined Pursuit of Less. I'm going to give you... He also did a book recently. There we go. Oh, right. Essentialism. Sorry, there's 2 books. There's Essentialism, and then the other one is Effortless. There's 2 of them. So that's why I think I got that confused. I've read both of them. They're both really good. And I think it's a good counterbalance to a lot of productivity things often like proselytize. I'm screwing up the word. They tend to preach. And so I think it's a really good read for sort of rethinking how we approach things and really approaching the thing, like focusing on things that we actually care about rather than being busy all the time. And it's a philosophy I have thought a lot about and iterating on myself as I'm exploring the boundaries of what I'm capable of, and also how to ensure that I don't become a one-trick pony, right? That like all I don't do is just this one thing, and how do I make myself more interesting, and how do I, pursue all the things that I'm interested in without like burning out, right? It's kind of interesting. And so so your question here on Tim Ferriss. So yeah, I was introduced to Tim Ferriss quite a few years ago, and so particularly around the concept of the 4-day work week. I think that was one of his like big pieces. And so overall, I found I don't know. I think the Tim Ferriss is very popular for a lot of different reasons, and I think the key thing with any of these, call it productivity gurus and these sort of like well-known figures, is that they often have very specific problems they were trying to solve. And so, for example, I think when I remember from the 4-day work week, one of the ways he, I think, proposed that you do this is like, if you can leverage systems to like have people basically do the work for you while you profit off of it. So in the sense of like, I think one of the business models he proposed was like, you do like the hiring of like, you figure out the product market fit, but then you outsource to like the manufacturing and the all the distribution pipelines, so that it's making money while you can basically do less. And that kind of model to me is like, it works for some people, but I don't think it's good general advice, because that's like, one, you have to put up capital. That is a lot of infrastructure for people to set up. And so overall though, I would say, again, I think I like seeing how people's different perspective on things, because to me, that's how you learn, right? Because I think taking any one guru and then saying like either all of it's right or all of it's wrong, even if parts of it don't really resonate with you, oftentimes there are key nuggets of insight that can be very key to unlocking you on that next step. And so, if you have specific ideas from Tim Ferriss that you've kind of been experimenting with, I'd certainly love to hear more about that. I think I stopped following his work as much recently, and so I've been exploring sort of new authors to gain new perspective, but happy to talk more about maybe like, this is definitely a topic worth diving into. I think I might add that to the list for like a Thursday productivity chat, that kind of thing. Because actually, so as like a brief preview, so this Thursday for the Obsidian office hours, I actually will be deep diving into Obsidian tasks, and we'll be actually talking about this very thing, as far as like how I've sort of, my theory has evolved from like how I'm doing things in Obsidian, so that I can get a better sense, a comprehensive sense of what I'm doing, where I'm going, and how that fits in on like a larger scale. So hope that gives you like a little bit of a foray into the way I work Nunchi. And so as you can see though, it's very much a work in progress. It's not perfect, because I find myself losing track of things all the time. And so this is why things like Airtable are being featured on today's stream, is because I do think there comes a point where we really need to learn to leverage automation. But again, leverage automation in a way that doesn't feel like you're managing the automation all the time. So to me, updating a table that updates the calendar for me, that's like the perfect level of automation. But like, if I have to go in and configure the automation and like, oh no, the API updated and it broke, like, we have, like, I think it's really important, especially those of us in tech who have the privilege of, call it, making like higher salaries in tech and that kind of thing, is that, I know that it's easy to get caught up in the having software for free, because a lot of that is our work, right? Open source has been like that. But honestly, one of my core values and principles is that when a service proves its value to me, I am more than happy to hand over that monthly fee. Because if you think about it another way, right? For example, I think I'm paying $20 a month right now for Airtable to handle these automations. And for some people, $20 a month sounds like a lot of money. And I would say that $20 a month can sound like a lot for software, but I would say, if you think of, you know what? I'm going to open up Obsidian real quick. Someone, I think it was Christian. Nope, not Christian. Here we go. Clay Christensen. Ha! Oh, no, sorry. Clay Christensen. Okay, yep. So let me go ahead and realize. Let's go over to live screen now. So Clay Christensen here. There is a quote that he has here that really... wait. Understanding the job, products here. Oh, I didn't. I thought I did tag him. Why didn't that show up? Clay Christian. Okay, anyways, this is not an Obsidian stream. But I love this quote, which is, people don't really buy products or services, rather they hire them to do a job. And I think this is really, really important to think about when it comes to software, and when you determine that it's time to pay for something, in that you basically have figured out that, look, this service, like how much would I like think about how much would you have to pay and how much time would you have to spend to even hire a personal assistant, even part-time, to learn your system, to go ahead and make sure things are uploaded and updated correctly. Like some of these things, and not to mention, especially for things like if I update a table, update the Google Calendar, that's probably not very fulfilling work for like someone who's, I don't know, if you're like trying to mentor someone. So for me, automating these sort of like really scripted tasks is really, really important for like leveraging your time in a better way going forward. And so for me, I did the math of like how much time like I had sunk into trying to schedule these things and then like either failing and like not kind of stuff. So, I mean, that's like a little bit of a rant on that bit. But, oh, I realized, shoot, I did not, I did not set my environment variables. Hang on a sec. I am editing that. I am setting my environment variable right now so that we can get back to it. But yeah, hopefully that was helpful in giving you a sense of that. Okay, so that's that. And okay, interesting. I think we should probably hide. Okay, just a thought I need to make a note of later. Okay, so switching back to live screen. All right, before I get to this, actually, the question here from Nanchi, which grinds my gear more? A spouse cheating or a badly notated Obsidian post? I would say they're completely different things. I guess I mean, certainly I'm going to assume, Nanchi, that the bait is for a badly notated Obsidian post. But I would say, you know, the tricky thing about taking notes and that kind of stuff is that I don't know, I feel like a lot of society and the way we've been raised in school and that kind of stuff has gotten us to a point where we're always constantly chasing like the perfect ideal. And so, and that's been like beaten into us. And I use that because I do feel like it is like that from like from like a fixed mindset perspective of like, when you take a course in school, you have to follow the pace of the rest of the class. And if you're going to excel, you have to excel at the pace of the class. So in other words, if we all went back to school right now and we took a semester of, you know, learning JavaScript together, right? We're all brand new programmers. We all had the same 6 months to get to the end goal and complete the objectives. And the problem I have with this is that everyone's life is a bit different from like the time they have available. And not to mention the way we absorb information is different too. Yet, as you go through a course, if you don't meet those objectives by a certain date, you are then graded by according to whatever you can retain. So some of us may be getting an 80%, 60%, 40%. It doesn't matter. Because at the end of it, when you have that grade, it's going to say, oh, this is you and this is you forever. This is your grade forever for JavaScript. And this to me is incredibly frustrating because what this tells us is we get this idea that anytime we do something, it's done and there's nothing you can do about it anymore. And then we get these fixed ideas about who we are and what we're capable of as individuals. And that if anything, that grinds my gears because we all have incredible potential, I think, from when it comes to doing things that we're interested in. And sometimes it just takes us longer, right, to absorb things. And there should be nothing wrong with that, right? Like, how many of us as programmers, if we were on the same timetable, some of us would succeed, some of us would fail. Yet this is such a terrible metric from like a grade perspective because a lot of us are successful programmers in our right. Some of us just might have taken a little bit longer. Maybe we just needed some peers to support us. And and so anyways, I clearly went on a rant. Talk about something that grinds my gears. So I think this fixed mindset then pervades into the work that we do in terms of like, it's got to be this perfect thing because otherwise it'll never get changed anymore. And that is the kind of thing I want to break. That's the kind of mindset that I know I want to wash away from people because it's not healthy and it limits us. It limits all of us and our abilities and potentials. So, okay, sorry, rant there. All right, so right now I have the API key being generated. I have it pulled in. Let me make sure that it doesn't show up publicly. I mean, I can always reset the key. So luckily, Airtable has made that pretty easy. So let me go ahead. That's actually wrong. So let me make sure, is this working? Great, this is working. So localhost 808080 or 8888, and then go to schedule 123. Perfect. Okay, now that we have our base, we have our Airtable. Oh shoot, I lost my Airtable. I need to grab the docs for, oh, let me bump it up. I guess the mobile is not as great, but that's okay. So sometimes that would bother me, but again, I understand Airtable is doing a lot, and not being and actually to take that back, also it has a mobile app. So if you really want to do things on mobile, you can. Just clearly the mobile view on desktop is not necessarily prioritized from a design perspective, which is totally fine. All right, events table here, list records. This is what we want. So the example request in JavaScript is we take the base and we take the events and then we select it. Okay, that works for me. So what I want to do is I'm going to take, so I guess I declare the base actually, const base equals Airtable base, okay? And so I'm going to say base dot, base, okay, base passing the table I want, which is events. I'm going to select a specific gallery, or sorry, specific view, and the view I'm going to select is public events. So I like this. This is already very clean to me. Select public events. I'm not going to put a limit on it. And then for each page, I'm not even going to bother doing anything. And then what is it going to do? And then there's a callback function at this end of it for each page function. This is a comma, right? Nope. For each page, oh, if that return this, return if error, function done. Error, if error. Oh, okay. So what is it trying to say? It would return each one individually? List. Let's try this. I base select. So select here is ends right here. Then for every page, there is a function to do something with that. And it'll go ahead and go through and fetch each thing. But then what's interesting though is that this here ends, the function page will be called for each page of the record. For each record, retrieve get name. Fetch the next page in the records. If there are more records, page will be called again. Oh, I see. So I think each page of records. So I guess what it's saying is that inside of Airtable, there could be multiple pages. I'm a little surprised. I thought this kind of went on infinitely, but okay. Let's see about that. And then for each, this here is where I think, okay, here we go. The function ends here. So each page does get a function, and then if it errors out, otherwise it'll return the thing. Okay. If I only want to fetch the first page, error records, if error, otherwise return retrieved. Okay. Interesting. What do they define as a page? That's what I think is kind of interesting. Select returns a query object. And then select records matching that query using the each page and first page matches of the query object. Return records do not include any fields with empty values. Okay, so this is required. So I actually can't skip this. So once I've selected this, I have an each page functionality. Okay. So inside of my each page, I have a function called page. This function page will get called, oh, they named it page. Okay, but what I could do is just go records. It gets two different functions, I guess. We get called for each page of records. All right, let's just keep trying. Records, fetch next page. Jacob said there's a private API. Honestly, yeah, it has me thinking the API could be a little bit easier. But it's okay. Let's just do this real quick. So I'm going to say records.for each. For every record, we're going to go ahead and just copy this real quick. And then it'll fetch the next page. So it was just going to log it, but I think that's not going to be very helpful to me. And then I get this last function after this function. So what I'm seeing is there are two different, each page gets two different functions. It has the ability to, it's almost like this here. Again, I might be making a mistake here in sort of, hold up, that's here. Basically that's saying always return this back, this back, this back, save. Da-da-da. Okay, so this is nice. Base table, return, select. So the only thing I can think of for this though is that I need an array. So const event data equals an array. And so for every record, I'm actually going to do event data.push record. And then from here, then this is where I'm going to return status code 200 in the body of my, oh, here's the return. Oh, what is, oh, I screwed up. Okay, hang on. This is the returned body. What did I do? I botched something. Dot each page. Yep. Let me see. Can I indent this? Fetch, fetch, fetch. Then it takes a second one. Here, here, here. Maybe I don't need this anymore. That did not like it. Oh, here we go. Okay. Much better. I think for each page, yes. Okay. Now it's returning. If it does, then error, then otherwise return. Okay. Unnecessary return statement. Okay. Console log error, error, error. And then I can do event data here. All right, let's see if this works. So I feel like that was a hodgepodge of trying to figure out if things are working. Let's refresh. Okay, authentication required. Perform valid API key. I thought I did. Okay, let me go ahead and check this real quick on the side. I need account page. Yep, this is the right key. This is right. Inject Airtable API key. Yep. Okay, going back here. Let's see. Compiling server. Let's see, Jacob in the chat here. It hasn't changed for years, otherwise not a very great experience otherwise. It's one of those things where like I feel like the potential is there, but clearly I need to, again, it's funny how this part, oh, so if I refresh, it doesn't like it. Manifest not found. Okay, I'm not concerned about the manifest. It almost is, so actually, does events get, it does get called. It's returned as an empty array. Okay, so I'm doing something wrong here. I am clearly doing something wrong. Log record. So if I refresh this page, oh, here. Oh, it is being fetched. Item, 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 item. Okay. Is that because this thing should be in a wait? Does it get assigned something? That's what I need to know. Retrieve record. So this is how you retrieve a specific record. Yeah, but I want the list. The list is definitely what I want. So fetch the first page. Max record, page size. I don't care about that. Okay, page size. So they're doing for pagination. Fine. Sort. I get that. View ID. Cell format. Time zone. User locale. Pagination. Page size. Retrieve. Okay. So interestingly enough, though, base.select. This has got to be an async request. So I wonder what if we said const Airtable response equals await this, and I misspelled const. And then what if I log Airtable response and I save? Okay, so if I do that, I should expect then to see that when I refresh this page, okay, it is still logging out each record. And the thing is did it log out Airtable response? Okay, actually, let me not log here. Actually, I'll just do like hello. It's fine. And then we log out here. Let me make this an object so that hopefully it'll actually stringify. So here we reloaded events, reload. What do we get? We get hello, 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 but the Airtable response is undefined. That's interesting. So that didn't work as expected. I guess maybe it actually does because the Airtable response is being awaited. So I think I forgot when you're loading things, I think the console log will happen before the await even happens. Although I just broke something. What did I break? Let's see. What did I break? Nope, that's not it. Okay, come on. What did I break? Refresh. Manifest.json. Event should have been has no response data available. Okay, so it just didn't like that. So event data here. That should refresh. That is good. Again, events is going to be an empty array. For every page in each record, we're clearly logging it out. Why can't I push that up to event data? That's what I think is a little bit weird. Because it should be to say event data.push the record. Like that should be it. And then you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to log out event data. And then I'll just quickly say, actually that should be good. So now inside of here, it's been reloaded. If I refresh, event data is still an empty array. I'm missing something. We are gonna log the record again. Refresh. So we're getting all 4 items, right? So this is correct. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 items in Airtable. They are being fetched correctly, but for some reason, fields. See, look. So here's the record. Let's see. Did I miss something? Did I like skip something here? Record.get name. I just want the whole record. Can I just? Is it because record is its own class? Oh, maybe that's why. Because it's not returning a JavaScript object. Weird though. Okay, fine. Oh, here's the raw JSON. Oh, okay. Hang on. Record dot underscore raw JSON. Hang on. Maybe this is it. So refresh. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, I think we're getting there. So then everything there, event data is still empty. Great. So then we say event data.push record.raw JSON. That's reloaded. We refresh. Dang, I don't think that worked. Oh, something's missing. Private API. This doesn't make sense though. Like what? It's returning the data, but then it's like I can't assign it to something. Like if it's for every page, do this, you have this data, fetch next page. Otherwise, if error, like, oh, I'm missing something. I gotta be missing something. Only data for fields whose names are in this. If you don't need every field, you can use this parameter to reduce. Yeah, but fields isn't necessary. Only data for fields. Return records that do not. No, I'm clearly returning. Well, oh, maybe that's why. Because I'm not actually returning anything. This is just getting called, and it'll go through and retrieve it. But then after that, nope, I lost it. Oh, private API. Oh, that's a private API. Well, okay. All right, so, okay, right. We want to just record.get name. Okay, so even if that's the case, then I would say my goal here would be then to list out for each. You can use the following kind of sort and format the results. Fields, an array of strings. Okay, this is optional. So that means that I actually can just get everything. So I don't even need to filter it. I don't need to filter by. I don't need max number of records. I don't need page size. I don't need to sort. Nice that I can sort in advance though, by the way. That is kind of nice. So, okay, that did not work. But it's like, I clearly get, like something is happening, right? Like when I fetch the API, it's going through and it's grabbing my data correctly. And raw data ID field, like this is like, I just want this. This is great. That's exactly what I want. Patch put. Okay, so maybe the record itself, maybe that's the problem, is I'm not giving the chance to say, I don't know, let's say, all right, so it's not telling us to await it. Then what I'm gonna assume then is event data dot push, and inside of here, then I would say, you know, spread out record dot fields, I think is what we saw here, record dot fields. So if I save this, you would think it would go ahead and, again, maybe it's because of the async nature of this, which is so interesting to me. Events is still empty. Ben rage quits. No, Nunchi, I refuse. I feel like I'm missing something very small. Like once I have, like I can clearly see the data. Like that's not, it's there. So why? Nuxt Air. Okay, hold up. All right, let's jump into it. Okay, I mean, this is why case studies are so important, right? Because methods load data base select each record self dot this equals records. Oh, are they saying it's not in scope at this point? This dot load data. I thought the whole point of the constant is that it already exists. Oh, const self equals this. Yeah, so event data should be in scope. So base view each page function page records for each. That's working. Then self.videos equals records. Is it because I'm trying to manipulate the array? I mean, I don't care. Fine, I'll make event data a single thing. But then... No, that doesn't make any sense. Because I could just... They're saying what? Event data equals record? Event is a constant. Oh, okay, fine. Let. Okay. So... View Gilmore. Yep, with the const bit. Maybe... that's just an array. You know what, though? I just realized this should work if I just say push 1. And we should just get like 4... Now it's saying it's never reassigned. Use const instead. Event. Nope, that's right. I mean, if I did event data.push 5, we should see... There you go. 5 is appearing. So something is happening in here that's never scoped out. There's a second function that says the error. If it's an error... Oh, I have like 5 minutes left. Can I try to think about this? Retrieved the name. That's fine. Fetched it. Base.select. What am I missing? It's interesting with this methods here. Base ID, return videos. I mean, this is just setting it integrating. Nope. Using Airtable for content serverless backend. Oh, okay. Someone, it looks like Gui did this. Okay, nice. Okay, great. Function access API key configure. Event context callback. Base entries. All records. Oh, I am totally on the right track. Hang on. Exports handler function event context callback. I have my event data here. Base events. Select max records 100. Fine. Each page function records for every record. Push. Oh my god, this is totally what I'm doing. Okay, hold up. Save. Function done if error else. Oh, look at this. That's it. That's the magic. The done. This is why they do it that way. Okay, I acquiesce. This is for each page. I will get rid of the anonymous function. This is why they did it this way. Because the function done is what's called at the end of it. It never hits anything else. And so hence, if there's an error, otherwise, then this is where I do the return. That's where I messed up. So if that's the case, comma expected. Why is it comma expected? Oh yeah, right. Save. Done, 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 done. Refresh. No. Hold up. Callback null response. Oh, okay. Interesting. That is the other piece. Event. So I'm running into a little bit. I'm running into a serverless function thing where when you do all this stuff, you actually need to run the callback with the response. Interesting. So I can just say callback. Basically, this is the thing to return once this is done. And I don't know what the first argument is, so I'll just put an underscore. Actually, not even an underscore. I'll just put null, just like they did. Save. Okay. So close. Lambda function response was undefined. What are you talking about? I have a response. Let event data, const event data. Async has no await. Okay, fine. So no await. Dun, 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 dun. Ah, so close, yet so far. Body. If error. All right, I'm literally just gonna replicate this. I'm literally just gonna replicate this. I don't even care. Const body equals stringify event data. Body is gonna be event data. Fine, I don't care. Save. Watch this not work. Oh yeah. Oh wait, body is body. What am I doing here? This is correct. And then yes, I understand. I can shorten that up. Okay. Great. Did that. Refresh. Plan. Yes. My base is wrong. Jacob, what do you mean my base is wrong? Is it base events? Did I do something wrong? But this is it. It appeared. Oh man. Okay, we did it. I don't know why. Is it? Okay. First try. Oh, plan. You clearly came at the end. This is clearly not the first time. I think it's because I didn't have headers. My money is because it did not have headers. Because I had it right the first. I basically had this the first time. Oh, it's still working. If. Wait. So you're saying that if I just do JSON.stringify. Oh, I think I know what happened. Hang on. I have to figure this out before I wrap up. This is what I had originally, because this is the callback function. This is the response. This is gonna break, and I think I know why. Nope, I don't know why. Obsidian office hours built with Ben. It suddenly likes it now that it has the else condition. I'm gonna delete the else condition. I want to replicate that. Either that or I just like refresh at a weird time. Did I refresh at a weird time? Refresh. Okay. Oh, nope. That worked too. I don't know what happened. Okay. So, I mean, there's clearly some blog posts and lessons learned from this, but we did it. We got Airtable talking to the schedule page. And so just to actually ship something, right? Because we talked about this, we just want to ship it. I actually need to do a whole async thing for data to appear, but I want to show this. So event list. So heck, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to, oh my God, it's going to be so painful. All this stuff is no longer upcoming. This is past. So I'm going to grab all these schedule items. Again, this will get refactored into data in the near future. Jump down here, and then because it's view, it'll be easy for me to actually do dynamic things to let people sort by the things they care about, right? If they're looking for a specific event, or if they're looking for a specific topic, like I think this now opens up the ability to do more of that fun stuff. And so we're shipping this. So we're just a list, and I'm just going to give this a class of schedule item. And then we're going to drop this styling in here. And then we know that is going to be fields, I believe, fields.name. Okay, so We're finishing this event.fields.name. And then this is not going to be great, but let's see, event.fields. I believe starts on, ends on, starts on. Okay, so that one I need to use the key is not easy for JavaScript. Oh, so close. Oh, I know why. Because name is capital N. I bet that's the reason. Yes! And then, hold up real quick. If I do this, where am I? New date. It'll work. That'll do. I'm not going to format it anymore. We can shift this. We're shifting this. All right. So there we go. Git commit feature add event API for integration with Airtable. Boom. Okay. That was that was scary. Did not think I was going to. I mean, I am definitely over time, but we did have a couple of tangents, so might have been able to figure without the tangents. But honestly, I'll be honest, tangents are one of the things I love about live streaming. And so thanks again, everyone, for hanging in there, and Jacob for helping to be the rubber duck, and beyond the rubber duck, helping to guide me for things that I was just like, what the heck is going on? So this is really exciting, because now with the ability to fetch data in from Airtable, the possibilities really opened up. That said, it's been an absolute pleasure hanging out with everyone. Thanks for bearing with me as we embarked on that adventure to get Airtable and Nuxt integrated. I nearly gave up. I am not gonna lie. I definitely almost gave up. So that said, thanks again, everyone, for hanging out. Talk to you all later.